Let's see what we get. It took me a day for the stem to dry it out. It is already dense, the clay is completely dry. That's it. You can safely make leaves and glue them. First, what do? I will measure the stem itself. How long did I get? Since my petals are not small by themselves, and I would even say large. First, we measure the tulip itself, that is, the color itself is sized. Now let's measure by the largest petal how long we get. Somewhere 6.5 centimeters, but no, 6 centimeters. Even more. Let it be 6.5 centimeters. And the length of the stem at the same time I got somewhere 32 centimeters. 30 and here 32.5 centimeters. 33 centimeters. It is a stem of sufficient length. So, since the size of the head itself, the flower, is large enough, and the stem relative to the flower itself should be so long. So what do we do next? We need to make leaves. We put the flower aside. For casting we need, I have a tulip leaf veneer. You need clay. Here I still have a clay, a small amount of unused green clay which we used on the stem. We'll add some unpainted clay to it and add some herbal green paint to make it more saturated. Well, we will roll out the leaves in the future. Let's get started right away. We need to make 2 leaves. This piece, which I have, will be enough for 1 leaf approximately. Therefore, I will take about the same amount of clay. And now I'm going to mix some paint. So, I think this will be enough. So, let's stir it together with the colored clay first. If you say no more much clay that you used on the stock, you can just take unpainted clay and make enough light green hue. Then we will have it. These leaves will be tinted. So we need, and add some paint. The leaves themselves will be slightly more intense in color than the stem itself. I also add herbal green, but we will tone with viridian paint. Let's add such cool shades. So we need, let's see what happens. And I'll add it a little. We add paint a little bit so as not to overdo it, so that the color is not too dark. So I stirred it and got such a green shade. Now, we take the film. And about half of the clay we mixed. And now we are going to make leaves. I roll this small sausage. And now I'll go for a little powder. You can use starch. You can use the powder on the petals and leaves. But starch, again I want to say, shakes off well. If you have no powder and use starch. Because then there will be tinting with oil paint and starch can cloak the paint. Therefore, the leaves need to be clean enough. So, carefully, the leaf thickness must be large enough, somewhere 1 millimeter, 1.5 millimeters. So now, the rolling pin slides. We make the leaves without a frame, without wire, so the thickness should be not thin because the leaf may sag over time. Now I will distribute the clay evenly. And we check the thickness. About 14 mm can be larger. I do it offhand in that way. Probing method. I looked, the thickness, yes, somewhere 1.5 millimeters. So what am I doing? I don't have a cutter. What am I gonna do now? Look, I put the veiner on like this and circle it. For this I will use a stack. This is how I apply and gently circle with a stack, slightly pressing while the drawing I need is drawn. Look. And we take a stationary knife. Carefully, according to this drawing, which I made, outlined, cut out. So. And now we remove the excess clay. So I removed the excess clay. Now what are we doing? We close and go carefully along the edge, thinning the edge of the leaf itself. We open. You need to leave it for a few seconds, let it wind a little, so that later it does not stick to the veiner. So what am I doing? I coat gently over the veiner with powder. I powder it. If you don't want to wait long, you can walk over the leaf like this. Now, gently turn the leaf over. I'll powder a little on the other side too. And now we apply the shape to the veiner. And we print. So look what happens. Small errors that we need to trim. We take scissors and cut carefully. We need to make a leaf in the shape of a veiner. Therefore, we remove all these lines that are superfluous. So, let's see what happens. Since here a slightly thickened edge was cut off, in any case we will not create a bend. Therefore, you can walk with a stack that is in this way, thinning the edge. But I'll just do it with my hands. That is, we will create a bend, and by gently pulling, I give firstly waviness to the edge, while it stretches a little and becomes not so thick. So, here. Next, what am I doing? You can pull the leaf a little, just make sure that the base of the leaf is thicker. So, we sip a little, just a little carefully, so as not to thin the leaf at all, because when stretched it becomes thinner. Why are we doing this? To lengthen the leaf itself a little. So, now roll one edge inward a little. We bend it. We make this inner bend. You can pull it, the corner of the sheet itself. And we can bend this edge outward like this. We do all this with a finger. Very carefully, as long as the clay is soft, it is very pliable. That is, you can give the bend we need most without unnecessary loss of texture. Do not use a stack. So, here's what happens. That's what it is. Now what are we doing? We need to leave this leaf to dry. We put it to dry or in some form that we have to dry. Any one. From under the eggs, for example, or foam drying. So, and we leave the leaf to dry not for long, for about 1 hour. Look at the state of the leaf. It is necessary that it remains flexible enough, but at the same time already a little windy. That is, not entirely soft. Yes? Why is this done? Because we will glue it. And when gluing, the clay should still be soft enough so that everything is well glued and everything is neat. Therefore, we leave the leaf for a while in the dryer. Here I have a foam dryer. Put down the leaves. Look, the leaf that we made together with you and another one. We have 2 leaves. Same thing to do and you. You can have 2 leaves or you can have 1. So, I think 2 leaves will look more interesting. Now we leave these leaves to dry. Let them dry out a little and then we'll begin to glue them. So the leaves are dry. It took about an hour, to be honest, because I thought that half an hour would be enough, but in order to fix the shape of the leaf, but at the same time it remains flexible enough, it takes about an hour, even a little more, for example, depending on how much humidity you have in your apartment, in the room where the leaves are. I held it for about an hour. I dried. See, it is flexible. But the bend retains its shape, that is, the leaf doesn't change its shape. That's all. What are we going to do now? We need to glue these leaves. We'll try them on first. How will the leaf be positioned? Look, I will glue. So, I will have one leaf longer and the other one shorter. The one that is shorter, I will stick a little lower. It almost reaches the bud. So, this is how I will show. Almost gets it, but doesn't get it. This will position the leaf just a little higher because it is longer. Therefore, the place of gluing is located here. I will glue it with the latex glue. Because the leaf is still soft, I think it should be attached with latex glue. If, of course, the leaf had dried more, then its flexibility is practically, it is not very flexible, then glue it on super glue. So, we coat the base of the leaf with latex glue. And now, in order to properly attach, I press it in the place where we will glue. That's all. We press, we hold. Here's what happens. At the same time, if there is excess glue, then it is better to remove it with a damp cloth or just gently with your fingers so that the glue does not remain. In any case, then we will rub these joints, cover them up with clay, so that we have everything very neat. So, we glue. I'll hold it a little. So let's measure the second leaf. We will glue the second leaf right here, in place of gluing the first leaf. We kind of wrap it around the previous sheet exactly at the base of the leaf itself. That's the way. That is, you can already smear. So, we coat the base. We do all the same, carefully, and I apply. And as if clasping the first previous leaf. So let's see what happens with this. it turns out, as it were, a slight thickening. But then we will gently smear this thickening with clay, wash it all, and we will distribute it all along the length of the stem. Everything will be neat. The main thing is to glue it well now, so that everything holds. So, see what happens. These are the leaves. They're still flexible and we need to leave them to dry. Can you just do what? Put the flower to dry like this. You can hang it upside down. That is, there won't be much difference. In this case, the leaves are stored in this way. Since they have already taken shape, they will not change much. The main thing is that they are now dry. They will dry up now. This will, of course, take several hours for the leaves to dry completely. Or even leave the flower overnight so that the leaves are completely dry. Next, we will have a small tinting of the leaves and we will definitely cover the joint with clay. That's all, we leave it to dry. So, let's see. My leaves are dry. What do we need to do now? Look. Of course, we will also tint the leaves, and most importantly, we also need to roll this place where the leaves are glued together with the stem. That is, we will cover it all now so that everything is neat. What do we need for this? We need this green clay from which we made the leaves. You will need latex glue. Water is over. So, and it is advisable to have a wet napkin to gently wipe off all the droplets, some smudges. We take a small amount of clay. Now, if anything, we will remove the excess. So, I apply latex glue to the place where we will coat with clay. So, and now we carefully make just such a cake. We wrap this place with clay. And first I spread it gently with my fingers. So, the leaves are not completely dry, so they are in motion for me. So, and here we will remove it. What do we do next? Now we need to use water to wash out all the irregularities and make a smooth transition from the leaves to the stem. Look, I wash gently. Here. So it is here. Gently lower the clay down. That is, we need to make it so that it is not visible that we have any joints here. That is, there should be a smooth transition from the leaves to the stem. Therefore, we will now align. So, here too, below, we gently pull the clay down. Because here, after all, the thickening is obtained without it in any way. Therefore, this thickening should come to naught. Just the thickness of the stem at the bottom. Therefore, we carefully omit it. So, see what happens. I think you can see that the clay has already spread evenly. We also carefully pass between the fingers with such movements. I think that's all. Already washed well. I think nothing will be visible anymore. Now after drying, it will level out and everything will look neat enough. So well, everything I guess. Now we remove excess moisture, extra water, first with the leaves, and now from the stem, where the water just hit. Now I'll do it carefully here. This is what comes out, look, gently washed away. That's all. Smooth transition from leaves to stem. I think that everything should be clearly visible. Everything, now we carefully hang it up. Either make a hook at the end here. This is how we hang the tulip upside down and leave it to dry like this. It will dry completely and it will already be possible to tint the leaves. And with this our tulip will be ready. That's all. We leave it to dry. So well, let's see what we got. The stem is dried, everything is well smeared, all the joints were missed, everything turned out quite neatly. And I cut the wire. The length turned out to be about 40 centimeters, the stem length. So what else do we need to do in order to create a fully functional tulip? We need to add tinsing to the leaves. We will tint with Viridian oil paint and add a little thinner. So I'm squeezing out a small amount of paint. And I add quite a bit of thinner so that the paint is not completely thick. I'll make it a little thinner. It'll be enough. We will not add much. So, now, we mix it like this with a thinner. And now we need to tint mainly the upper part of the sheet. That is, we will not tint to the end. Low of the middle, maybe just below the inside and outside. The same goes for the second. Now we need to make the brush semi-dry. We need to do a very neat paint shading. For this, we will better add a little bit of paint. Add intensity. First we'll make a barely colored brush like this. And starting from the inside, so that you can see it well, gently shade it. I will start with a brush and then either blend with a napkin or even use my finger. Look, if you used it as a powder so that the leaves would be well imprinted on the veiner, they would not stick. If you use starch, then before toning, the starch must be shaken off very well. Let's apply a slightly more intense color. So now, you can also use a sponge, if you have such a fine sponge. Basically, these are cosmetic sponges. I'll use a napkin. To do this, I remember it's like this, and I will carefully distribute the paint, shade it. So, now we'll add some shade or try with our fingers. Now it is difficult to crawl there, so shading, in order to do it very carefully, is better with your fingers. Not even a napkin. So, better use your fingers. Look further. I apply color again. Since we shade it well, it should not be dark saturated. The main thing for us is to add a shade of green. So now I will do it with my finger. I blend downwards. Probably I will just add to my fingers. So even more I like this effect. Look. At the same time, the color lays down and evenly as we need and shades well. Not too saturated. Now turn it over and do the same on the back side. I will apply it with my finger, without brush. Try both of them. Which one is more convenient for you? It's still more convenient for me to just blend it with my fingers. So, and probably now we will dilute the paint a little more. I will try to apply a more liquid one so that it lays down better. So, we blot and apply. It's just that I have a very intense color here and we will shade it with a thinner. I will apply it again with wide strokes. Remove excess with a napkin. So, now with your fingers. Since the texture of the leaf is still quite pronounced, it is necessary to make such a shading so that the texture paint does not weep into these veins. To be even. So, otherwise, whitish streaks are obtained that remain unpainted, so you have to do it carefully with a thinner, shade it. So let's see. And I will probably add some more colors here. We certainly don't reach the end, but just below the middle of the tint. Here. So look what happens, at least in contrast to unpainted sheet and painted. Apparently, isn't it? We added a cold viridian color, which is what real leaves actually have, primarily. And we tried to shade it so that everything was very even, the paint was distributed. That's the way. Now we tint the second leaf. Let's see what happened while toning the second leaf. These are the leaves we have, cold viridian tinting. Just below the middle, leave the base unpainted so that there is a smooth color transition. What else can you add? The tulip stem stands out very strongly. You can also walk quite a bit with the viridian color along the stem. just a little bit. To do this, I will now apply paint on my fingers, blend it. Practically the color, barely lies on the fingers, and gently shading apply color. Just a little. It can even be up to about the middle of the stem. So now I'm blending it so that there is a smooth transition. The base cannot be painted, so we now have a flower. Here is a little colored stem. Slightly at all. Give a smooth color transition. Watch it work out. I think this is much better. Well, basically, the flower is almost finished there. There is only one nuance that I spoke about him. We painted the inside with yellow color at the base of the petals from the inside. The outer side can also be slightly captured with yellow flowers. To do this, now let's go through an almost dry brush in yellow. Quite the essence is a little. Let's add a little accent, and on this completely the tulip will be ready. When tinted yellow, I will use yellow paint. I will squeeze out a very small amount here, on the palette, and a small brush. We take the yellow color and shade it very well. Rather, we clean the brush so that it becomes almost dry. So, now, we take the tulip, carefully. On the very base, right here, of the petals, we apply yellow tint. A little bit. So, at the same time, we shade well. But this is done after the paint has dried well on the petals. Well, again, I repeat, this could have been done, applied yellow before the red streaks were applied, this drawing. Since we did it a little differently, it's okay, since the yellow paint is applied in very small quantities. This is a shade. Shaded well and applied over the picture. So, and one more. So that's all, 3 petals are colored. Let's see what happened. Now watch. Outer side. That is, this is how it looks. And now I will show it well in full size. So let's see what we got. As a result of the workshop, we made such a wonderful tulip of the Rembrandt variety with a variegated color with an unusual toning. And let's look at it from all sides. Here is a top view. What stamens and pistil look like. The position of the petals themselves. We made a fairly close tulip shape, but if you wish, since the petals on the frame are external, you can open them, make them more open. So, what do I want to wish you? I wish you creative success, inspiration of course. Thank you for watching my workshop, thank you for that, and wish you success and of course see you definitely. This concludes the workshop. Good luck!